Hello friends. About 99% of friends who watch my videos are not subscribed, and I would be very happy if you did. Also, don't forget to press the like button and leave your comments. Your interaction makes the content reach everyone and helps the channel grow. Also, let me know in the comments from which country you are watching the video. You ever see something so messed up it stays stuck in your mind even when your eyes are shut and you're trying real hard not to think about it? Something that don't make no sense, like your brain keeps trying to twist it into something normal but it just won't fit? I got a story like that and I ain't never told it all the way through, but tonight feels right. So grab your coffee or your smoke or whatever keeps you company, 'cause I ain't holding back this time. Name's Hank, been driving rigs since I was 23, and let me tell you, highways hide more than just old roadkill and broken down sedans. Sometimes you find things on the road that don't belong to this world. The worst thing I ever saw, and I mean the worst, happened out on Route 77, somewhere between Wichita Falls and the Oklahoma line. It was about 2 in the morning. I remember that real clear 'cause my CB was dead quiet, and the only thing humming was the tires and some classic rock low on the stereo. I was hauling fertilizer that night, headed north, and I'd been driving long enough to get in that zone where your eyes are open but your brain's somewhere else, you know? I just passed a rest stop I usually like to hit when I got this weird chill, like someone opened the freezer door behind my neck. Then the lights on the dash flickered just once. I tapped the gauge thinking maybe it was a short or something, but everything looked fine. Then I saw it. On the right shoulder, maybe 50 yards ahead, there was this woman just standing there in a pale blue dress like the kind you'd see in an old photo from the 50s. Barefoot, hair wet and hanging straight down her shoulders. She didn't look at me. Didn't even flinch as the truck roared past her. I swerved just a little, thinking maybe she was in trouble. But by the time I slowed down and looked in the mirror, she was gone. Not like walked off gone. Like never been there in the first place. Gone. I pulled over anyway, kicked on the hazards, stepped out with my flashlight. Nothing. Not a footprint in the dirt, not a car, not a single sound. Just the wind and the smell of hot rubber. I figured maybe I was tired, seeing things, even though I knew better. Climbed back in and kept driving, but then the smell hit me. It wasn't fertilizer, it was rot. Like dead animal, wet and thick and sitting right behind the grill. I pulled over again, popped the hood, and nothing. Absolutely nothing. I started feeling real uneasy, like I was being watched, like something was crouched just outside the beam of the headlights. That night was just the start, and I swear to you it ain't the only time I've seen her. In fact, that lady in the blue dress, she followed me. For years. I seen her standing on bridges, peeking out. From behind overpasses, even in my side mirror once while I was parked overnight outside El Paso. Every time I see her, something bad happens. And it ain't just her either. There's more. So many more. I used to laugh when other drivers talked about haunted highways and cursed routes. Not anymore. Not since I saw the thing that walked like a man, but had no face. Not since I got stuck driving through a fog so thick it erased the road signs and turned a 1-hour drive into 8. Not since I heard the scratching under my bunk one night like something was inside the cab with me even though the doors were locked. I got stories that'll make your skin crawl, friend. And if you stick with me, I'll tell you every damn one of them. Just don't listen too close if you're driving through the night. Some of these things, they don't like being talked about. I remember this one time I was heading west on I-40 deep through Arizona just past Winslow. The desert stretches out forever out there. Flat and empty and humming with that dry kind of silence that makes your ears ring. It was maybe 3 in the morning, sky so black it looked like someone had shut off the stars. Not a car in sight for miles. My rig was running smooth and I was making good time, but I had this uneasy feeling crawling up my back like the kind you get when someone's watching you but you can't figure out where they are. I chalked it up to too much coffee and not enough sleep, but that feeling wouldn't let go. It got worse the further I drove. Then I saw lights, red ones blinking low and slow off in the distance. Thought it was a wreck at first, maybe a tow truck or emergency crew. I slowed down, rolled up to the side of the road, and there it was. A semi just like mine, parked crooked across the shoulder, engine off, hazards blinking. Cab door hanging open. No sign of a driver. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out, calling out a hello as I walked up. No answer. just the desert wind and the click of my own hazard lights behind me. I climbed up into the other cab, careful-like, and right away I could feel how wrong it was. It was cold inside. Not air conditioning cold, but cold like a walk-in freezer, and it smelled like burnt oil and mildew, the kind of smell that settles into your clothes and skin. The driver's log was still open on the dash, pen clipped in place, and there was a half-drunk bottle of water in the cup holder, but no sign of the guy who'd been driving. I turned back to the sleeper cab, pulled back the curtain, and damn near fell over. The inside of that sleeper was torn to shreds. Mattress ripped open, sheets shredded, walls clawed like some animal had gone wild in there. But no blood. Not a drop. Just torn up fabric and claw marks that didn't make sense. Too big for a dog, too random for a person. I backed out real slow, looking over my shoulder, suddenly aware that I couldn't hear the wind anymore. Couldn't hear anything. It was like the desert itself was holding its breath. That's when I heard it clicking. Not mechanical, not from the trucks. It was this high-pitched clicking sound like dry bones tapping together in a steady rhythm, coming from out in the dark behind the rig. I swung my flashlight around, heart pounding, and for just a second I saw it. Tall, thin, wrong. Legs too long, arms hanging down past its knees, and no face, just smooth skin where eyes and a mouth should have been. It was crouched low like a spider ready to pounce, and when the beam hit it, it moved. Not like a man, not even like an animal. It jerked back into the shadows, fast as hell. I didn't wait. I jumped back into my own truck, slammed the door, fired her up, and peeled out of there like the devil himself was breathing down my neck. I didn't stop driving for 4 straight hours, not until I saw the glow of Flagstaff on the horizon. Even then, I didn't feel safe. I've seen a lot of weird stuff on the road, but that one stuck with me. I still hear that clicking, sometimes especially when I'm parked alone at night in some dusty rest stop. Sometimes I'll wake up and swear I see something tall and thin just outside the window, standing real still like it's waiting for me to fall asleep. That thing, it weren't human. Ain't no doubt in my mind. And it wasn't the only one I've seen. There's something about these highways, man. Something under the asphalt, in the air, in the cracks of the concrete. I met a fella. Once down in Louisiana, another driver name was Mitch. He was older than me, real quiet type, kept to himself mostly. But one night we were parked at this little truck stop off Route 90 and he opened up. Told me he'd once taken a shortcut through a road that didn't exist on any map. Said his GPS led him there. Told him it'd shaved 20 minutes off his haul, and like any of us, he took it. But once he was on it, things got strange. Real strange. The trees started closing in, growing too close to the road like they were watching. The sky turned this ugly shade of red, and his radio started picking up voices speaking in a language he couldn't understand. When he tried to turn around, the road behind him was gone. Just forest. Said he drove for hours, maybe days, before he saw the same sign 3 times in a row, "Welcome to Mercy Hill." But there was no town, no buildings. Just that same sign, over and over, like he was stuck in a loop. He finally made it out, but when he got back on a real highway, his phone said it was 3 weeks later. 3 weeks. And he hadn't aged a day. His logbook was empty, his rig nearly out of fuel, and his tires looked brand new. He quit driving 2 months later. Said the road still calls to him in his dreams, that he hears that same voice coming through the static. He warned me to never trust shortcuts. And after what I've seen, I believe him. You ever hear of the Phantom Convoy? Some say it's just a legend, but I swear to God I've seen it with my own eyes. I was driving through Nevada not far from the Salt Flats when I noticed 3 trucks in my mirrors running lights off. No engine sound, keeping perfect distance behind me. I flashed my hazards, slowed down a bit, but they stayed right with me. Finally, I pulled off to let them pass, but they didn't. They just rolled on by without making a sound, like ghosts. All 3 of them were old models, rusted, dented, looked like they hadn't been on the road since the 70s. One had a busted headlight, hanging loose like an eyeball. And when I looked into the driver's seat of the last one, I swear the cab was empty. No one driving, just an old truck, rolling through the night like it had somewhere to be. Folks say those rigs belong to drivers who died on the road. Lost souls cursed to ride forever. I didn't believe it until I saw 'em for myself. There's more. Too much more. Things in the dark, strange towns that vanish by sunrise, rest stops, where time moves wrong, voices that come through the CB when no one's talking. I've had nights where my headlights picked up eyes that were too far apart to be any animal I know. I've woken up parked in a different place than where I shut my rig down, with no memory of driving. Once I picked up a hitchhiker who vanished. Halfway through the ride, left nothing behind but a puddle of water in the passenger seat and the smell of lake mud. I ain't making any of this up, and I sure as hell ain't the only one. Talk to enough old haulers and you'll hear the same kinds of stories. The road's got secrets, and some of them, they don't want to stay hidden. Hell, there was this one night I'll never forget. Driving up through Oregon near the Cascades, forest all around. Mist so thick you'd think the world ended 5 feet off the hood. It was around 2:30 a.m., that heavy dead time where even the animals seemed to hold their breath. I was hauling a load of appliances from Sacramento to Seattle just trying to keep my eyes open. The fog had rolled in fast, so thick it looked like I was plowing through milk. My headlights barely cut it, and I was driving slower than usual just to stay on the road. Then out of nowhere I see a sign that wasn't there before. Welcome to Black Hollow. Never heard of the place, and I've driven that route a dozen times. GPS didn't register it, phone had no signal. But the road started leading. That way, curving off into thick pine woods, and I figured maybe I took a wrong turn and just didn't notice. I rolled in real slow, tires crunching on gravel instead of asphalt. The place was dead silent, like the fog had swallowed all sound. Houses lined the road, real old ones, sagging roofs and paint peeled down to bare wood. No lights, no movement, not even dogs barking. But the weird part was, every house had a candle burning in the front window. Not a lamp, not a bulb. Just these small flickering flames glowing like they were waiting for someone. The further I went in, the more I started to notice things didn't make sense. Trees didn't sway in the wind even though I could hear the wind whipping. The candle flames didn't flicker right, like they were burning in slow motion. And I started seeing folks' figures standing behind the windows, just standing, watching, not moving. Faces pale and long like their skin had been stretched too tight. Eyes pitch black, mouths open just a little too wide like they were in the middle of screaming. But no sound ever came out. I was creeped out, no doubt, but I figured maybe it was some local custom, some weird little town thing. I pulled up near what looked like a general store. Old sign hanging off one hinge, door slightly open. Thought maybe I'd ask for directions, get myself back on the main highway. I stepped out of my cab, and the second my boots hit the ground, everything changed. The air got heavier, colder, like I'd walked into a freezer. My breath came out in fog, and the silence turned sharp like pressure building in my ears. I took a step toward the store, and then I heard it. A whisper, real close, right in my damn ear, just one word. Leave. I turned around fast, flashlight swinging, but there was no one there. Just fog and stillness. I don't scare easy, but every part of me was screaming to get the hell out of there. I didn't even get back in my truck proper. I jumped up, slammed the door, jammed the key in, and reversed out of there so fast I nearly took out a mailbox. I got back to the main road somehow, and just like that, the sign was gone. No Black Hollow. GPS picked up again, like nothing ever happened. But my dash clock was off. It said I'd been in that place for 3 minutes. My watch said 3 hours. And when I finally pulled into a truck stop near Eugene, the clerk asked me if I'd been out in the rain. I said no, and she looked at me funny and said, "You sure you're dripping wet?" I looked down, and damn if I wasn't soaked from head to toe in cold water. My boots squished, my jacket was heavy. Seat was dry, there ain't no explanation for it. Another time I was in Texas, driving south toward Houston. Long flat stretch of road, sunset bleeding out across the sky like the world was on fire. I just filled up, feeling good, music low, coffee in hand, when I saw this guy walking on the side of the road. Looked rough, long coat, wild hair, bare feet covered in dust. I slowed down, rolled down the window, and asked if he needed a ride. He didn't even speak, just climbed in, nodded once, and stared straight ahead. Didn't look at me, didn't say a word. But as soon as he sat down, the air in the cab felt wrong, heavy, like I was breathing through cotton. I tried making small talk, asked where he was headed, where he came from, but he stayed quiet. Finally, I gave up and just focused on the road. A few miles later, I looked over, and he was gone. Door still shut, no sound, just gone. And on the seat, a small pile of ash, right in the shape of a human body, like he'd been burned to dust. I pulled over, heart pounding, and when I brushed the ash off the seat, it was warm. Not like sun warm, like oven warm. I drove the rest of that route with all the windows down, trying to get rid of the smell. Like burnt wood and something sweet, like molasses and rot. Ask any long hauler and they'll tell you, there's something out here that don't belong in this world. Something that follows the roads, waits in the shadows, slips through the cracks when no one's looking. One of the worst times? It was out in the Midwest, maybe Kansas, right in the middle of nowhere. I was parked for the night, trying to catch some sleep at a rest area surrounded by cornfields. Just a little pull-off, no other rigs, just me, and miles of stock swaying in the dark. I just laid down when I heard it. Tap, tap, tap on the side of my sleeper cab. I sat up, waiting, listening. Another tap, then another. I figured maybe it was wind, maybe a branch or some bird. But when I pulled back the curtain and looked out the window, I saw handprints, small ones, all over the glass. Like a dozen little kids had been out there, pressing their hands against the glass. But I hadn't seen or heard any kids, not for miles. I opened the door with a flashlight and shined it out. Nothing. Just corn. Tall and rustling. I stepped down to get a better look, and that's when I heard giggling. Real soft, just past the edge of the light. The kind of laughing kids do when they're playing hide and seek. I called out, asked if anyone was out there, but the giggling stopped. Silence fell like a blanket. Then all at once the corn parted. Something ran past me, low to the ground, fast. I didn't see it clear, but it was pale, hairless, and crawling on all fours. It didn't make a sound, and it didn't leave tracks. I was back in my truck so fast I didn't even shut the door behind me proper. I pulled out of that rest area and didn't stop driving till I hit a town with lights. Still don't park near cornfields, ever. I could go on for days, friend. The road ain't just asphalt and paint. It's alive in ways most folks'll never understand. There's stories buried beneath the blacktop, ghosts trapped between exits, and something watching every mile we ride. And the longer you drive, the more likely it is that one day it's gonna watch you back. I swear to you, every time I think I've seen it all, the road throws something worse at me. Ain't just the dead that haunt it either. Sometimes it's things that never lived at all. Shapes that crawl out of places people weren't meant to go. Like that night in Nevada, middle of summer, heat hanging in the air like a wet blanket. I was hauling freight across a stretch of desert where the stars seemed so close you could reach out and touch them. But somehow, the sky still felt empty. That silence, the kind where even your engine starts sounding too loud, had me on edge. No radio signal, no CB chatter, no signs of other rigs for hours. Just me, my high beams, and the sand. Then up ahead, I saw something sitting in the middle of the road. Thought maybe it was roadkill, but as I slowed down, I realized it wasn't dead. It was moving. Real slow, like it was struggling to stand. It looked like a coyote at first till I saw its limbs, too long. Front legs bent backward, skin stretched tight over bone like wet paper. Its head jerked toward me, and I swear to God it grinned. Not a snarl, a grin, showing way too many teeth. I hit the horn, but it didn't budge. So I crept, closer, inching my rig forward. That's when it stood up, on two legs, just stood there, looking at me through the windshield, like it was waiting. I slammed the pedal and swerved around it, damn near jackknifed. Didn't look back. Didn't want to see if it followed. But the next time I stopped for gas, my side mirror was cracked clean down the middle, and across my windshield, written in what looked like mud, were the words, "Drive faster next time." I didn't clean it off till the rain took it 2 states later. And even then, sometimes I still see the faint smudge of those letters at night when the dew settles just right. Then there's the night I ended up on that road that don't exist. Sounds crazy, I know. But I was heading through West Virginia, somewhere deep in coal country. GPS froze, rerouted me through some back road I didn't recognize. Thought it might be a shortcut. Big mistake. The pavement turned to gravel, then to dirt, then to this cracked black stone that didn't look natural. Trees closed in so tight it felt like driving through a tunnel. My lights couldn't reach more than 10 feet ahead, no stars, no moon, just that dead claustrophobic dark. Then the road changed. It didn't feel like I was moving forward anymore. Every mile looked like the last. Same twisted tree, same rusted road sign that read, "No way out." I passed it 4 times. I know 'cause I counted. Tried to turn around, but the road behind me was gone. Just trees. Dense, solid, like they'd moved in behind me. I drove till the fuel gauge screamed empty. Then, without warning, I hit asphalt again. Back on a normal road. No sign, no intersection. Just like I blinked and it all vanished. But when I checked my log the next day, it showed a gap of 5 hours where I wasn't on any known highway. GPS history blank. Like I'd disappeared from the map. I ain't never been able to find that road again, and I sure as hell don't want to. But sometimes I wake up in the sleeper cab sweating, dreaming I'm still stuck there, driving in circles, passing that same damn "no way out" sign over and over while something walks just out of reach in the woods. Then there was that truck stop in Mississippi. Looked regular enough. Fluorescent lights, a diner, a couple pumps. Pulled in to get some coffee, stretch my legs. But as soon as I walked in, something felt wrong. Real wrong. Air was thick, like breathing. Syrup, the folks inside weren't talking, just sitting at tables staring at their food, plates full, untouched. I went up to the counter, but the woman behind it didn't move. She just stood there, smiling wide, eyes glassy like a doll's. I asked for coffee. She nodded, turned around real slow and poured it, but her hand was shaking like she was trying not to. When she handed it to me, her eyes finally met mine and she mouthed the word "run." I didn't stick around to ask why. Dropped the cup, booked it back to my truck, and as I pulled out, every single person in that diner stood up and walked to the window watching me go. No expression. Just watching. Like they were all part of something that didn't want me there. When I looked back in my side mirror, the whole place was gone. Just an empty lot. No lights, no building. Just weeds and cracked asphalt, and I got the burn on my wrist to prove it. Still got a faint ring from that hot coffee cup. One more story for tonight, and it's one I don't tell often. Not 'cause I'm scared, though I damn well should be, but because it felt personal. I was driving through Arizona, trying to make up time after a bad delivery window. Moon was full, lighting up the road real bright. I hadn't seen another soul in hours. Then I spotted a hitchhiker. Tall man, wide hat, standing perfectly still on the shoulder. He didn't stick out a thumb or wave, just stared as I approached. Something told me to keep driving, but I slowed anyway. He walked up to the passenger door, climbed in like he'd done it 100 times. No sound, no acknowledgement, just looked straight ahead. I was about to ask where he was going when he said my name, first name, full name. Said it like a friend. My blood ran cold. I'd never seen this man before in my life. He said, "You've been running a long time, haven't you?" I asked what he meant. He just smiled and said, "You ever stop to think why you're always on the road?" That's when I noticed. No shadow. The moon was full, but this man cast no shadow. Not on the dash, not on the window, not anywhere. I pulled over, heart hammering, and turned to him. But the seat was empty. No trace, no indent, just a faint smell of sulfur and dust. I left a day early from my route after that, and I haven't driven that stretch since. Sometimes late at night I hear his voice in my dreams asking me that same damn question. You ever stop to think why you're always on the road? Maybe I'm trying to outrun something. Maybe we all are. But I know this. These highways ain't just lines on a map. They're arteries pulsing with things most folks can't see. And every mile's got a secret, waiting for the right driver to come along. All right, buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you next is one of the darkest things I ever went through on the road. And I've seen some twisted stuff, but this one still makes me sleep with the cab light on when I pull over, for the night. So this happened somewhere in the middle of Kentucky. I was running late on a delivery trying to cut through some back roads my GPS picked out. Now, most seasoned truckers will tell you not to trust them shortcuts. It's either low bridges, no shoulder, or just plain bad luck. This time, it was all three and then some. It started when the road narrowed, turned into this thin two-lane with trees hanging over it like they were trying to block the sky. Even though it was barely 9 p.m., it got so dark I had to flip on my high beams just to see 20 feet ahead. That's when I saw the sign, hand-painted, crooked, nailed to a rotting post. Slow down or stay forever. I thought it was some local kids playing a prank, maybe trying to scare off tourists. But then I noticed the trees weren't just leaning. Over the road, they were bending toward it, like something had twisted them on purpose. I tried to turn around, but there wasn't enough space, and my gut told me that if I stopped, I might not get going again. So I kept moving. A few miles in, the CB started acting up, crackling with static, and then a voice cut through, clear as day. A woman, whispering real soft, "Don't look in the mirrors." Now I hadn't keyed the mic, wasn't on a call. My CB hadn't picked up nothing all day, so when I heard that my whole spine stiffened. I glanced at the side mirror out of instinct, and froze. There was something sitting on top of my trailer, couldn't see it clear, but it was big, long arms, looked like it was crouching down with its hands pressed flat against the roof. No face, just this wide, glaring grin of teeth that didn't look human. I swerved a little, nearly took out a mile marker, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I sped up, thinking maybe I'd shake it off. But the faster I went, the louder the roof creaked, like the thing was digging in with claws holding tight. That whisper came back on the CB. "Don't look, just drive." Now, I don't know about you, but when a voice you don't recognize tells you not to do something after you already made the mistake of doing it once, you listen. I kept my eyes on the road, knuckles white on the wheel, muscles tight like piano wire. The trees got closer and closer, branches slapping against the sides of the trailer like they were trying to reach in. I passed another sign. This one, scrawled in what looked like blood-red paint. "Eyes on the road or it takes you." I didn't blink for what felt like miles. Then suddenly the road opened up. I broke through the tree line like bursting out of a tunnel. The sky returned, stars shining, moonlight pouring down like nothing had happened. And the roof? Silent. I finally dared to check the mirrors. Nothing there. Whatever it was gone. But here's the kicker. When I pulled into the drop yard the next morning, the guy checking my trailer pointed to the roof and said, "What the hell were you carrying, Bigfoot?" There were 5 deep gouges stretching the length of the top, like something with fingers the size of crowbars had been hanging on. I didn't say a word, just signed the paperwork and left. I never took that route again. Don't even know if I could find it now if I tried. That whole stretch is just gone from the GPS. But every now and then, I'll be flipping through stations and I'll catch a whisper, real faint, cutting through the static. "Don't look in the mirrors." And I remember. There's more out here than deer and drunks to worry about. One night out in the Texas Panhandle, I stopped at this rest area right before dawn. The kind that's just one big loop with some picnic tables and a busted vending machine that ain't worked since '98. I was dead tired, figured I'd get 20 winks before hitting the road again. I parked, killed the engine, leaned the seat back. As soon as my eyes shut, I started dreaming. But it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like I'd woken up inside another version of the same rest stop. Except it was wrong. The colors were off. Everything was tinted red, like I was looking through a pair of blood-soaked glasses. The sky was black, no stars, and the wind had this low howl like it was coming from inside the ground. I got out of the cab in the dream, looked around and saw myself, standing at the edge of the picnic area just staring at me, or at the me that was dreaming. Whatever that means. The other me didn't move, didn't speak, just raised a hand and pointed toward the bathroom building. The door was open. Something was in there, breathing. Real slow, heavy, wet sounding breaths, like it had lungs too big for its body. Then the air got thick, and I felt my chest tightening like I was breathing in smoke. That's when I woke up. Only thing is, I wasn't in my truck no more. I was standing outside it, right where that dream version of me had been. Engine off, no lights, pitch black. I scrambled back into the cab, locked the doors, started the truck, and peeled out of there so fast I nearly tore up the bumper. I don't know what I stepped into that night. Don't know if it was some kind of spirit world or just a bad dream that got too real. But ever since, I don't sleep in rest stops if I can help it. And if I do, I tie a string around my wrist that leads to the wheel, so if I ever start moving in my sleep again, I'll know. 'Cause whatever's out there, it don't like it when you see it. And it sure as hell don't like it when you walk out of its world without paying a price. You want more stories? I got 'em. I've seen red-eyed kids standing in the middle of nowhere at 3 a.m. I've watched rigs with no drivers roll past me on roads that ain't on the map. I've had conversations with folks on the CB who weren't alive no more. Heard their voices crackle through the speaker long after they'd wrapped their rigs around a tree. But that's enough for now, friend. The road's calling. And you never know when the next mile's gonna be your last. Not a damn track in the snow. I ain't talking light dusting either. We're talking fresh powder thick enough to swallow a footprint whole, and there wasn't a single dent in it. Not where they stood, not where they should have gone. Just smooth, untouched white like nobody had ever been there. Now, I ain't the type to chase ghosts, but something about that felt real wrong, like I'd interrupted something that wasn't meant to be seen. So I got back in the cab and started moving again, slow and steady, figuring maybe I'd call it in at the next stop or see a real town up ahead. But Bellows Creek never came. No more signs, no lights, not even a mailbox. Just more of that. Forest, denser now, trees crowding close like they were leaning in to listen. Radio was dead. CB, FM, AM, all of it. My phone said no signal and the battery drained like it was sucking juice out just being on. Then I noticed the temperature gauge start to climb. Not drop, climb. It was 15 degrees outside, but my dash said the engine was overheating. And when I looked out the windshield, the snow wasn't falling anymore. It was rising. I swear on my mother's grave, it looked like flakes were floating up off the ground into the sky. That's when I saw the shadows in the tree line. Tall, thin things that didn't move like people. They swayed. Not from the wind either. Like they were breathing in unison. I pressed the pedal and got out of there, speed inching up to 70, while the road twisted tighter than I remembered. I kept expecting a sharp turn or a cliff, but it never came. Just mile after mile of this ghost forest, those things keeping pace in the trees. I didn't blink for what felt like an hour. My eyes were burning. My hands shook on the wheel. Then finally the trees broke and I saw a sign. Exit 112, Wallace. No Bellows Creek. Never saw it again. Didn't even show up on any maps when I checked later. Like it was a pocket of somewhere else. Somewhere that leaks into our world when no one's watching. And I ain't the only one that's seen it. I've talked to a few old-timers at truck stops, men who don't scare easy, and when I mention that name, Bellows Creek, they go quiet. One of them, guy with skin like worn leather and eyes like he'd stared down death and laughed, he just said, "You got out. Don't go back." That was all. No explanation. And I didn't need one. Then there was this other time down in New Mexico. Desert stretch, flat and endless. Moonlight sharp enough to cut glass. I was carrying steel coil for a rail yard down in Alamogordo. Night driving keeps the cab cooler. Less traffic, but man, it messes with your head after a while. I'd been on the road for 15 hours when I passed a broken-down sedan on the shoulder, flashers blinking slow like a heartbeat on its last leg. Normally, I don't stop. Too many stories about setups, people trying to rob truckers. But something about this felt different, honest. So I pulled over a few hundred feet ahead, grabbed a flashlight, and walked back. The car was empty, doors locked, engine stone cold. Like it had been there for hours, not minutes. But the weird part? There were fresh footprints in the sand. Barefoot. Small. Like a kid's. I followed them maybe 10 feet into the desert before. They just stopped. Not turned around. not wandered off. Just stopped, like the kid vanished mid-step. That's when I heard the whispering. Not out loud, inside my head. Real soft, like a lullaby through a cracked speaker. It said, "He's behind you," and I felt the heat like breath on my neck. I spun around so fast I dropped the flashlight, light skittering across the sand. Nobody there. Just the wind picking up, carrying grit across the dunes. I ran, back to my rig and locked the doors. Didn't stop driving till I hit a well-lit truck stop 3 hours later, hands still shaking. I asked around, but nobody knew about a missing kid, no broken-down car, nothing. Like it all just slipped through the cracks of reality. That's how it goes out here. One second you're driving cargo across 3 states, the next you're standing on the edge of something that ain't supposed to exist. You start to wonder if the road has a memory, like every drop of fear, every strange sight, every lost soul leaves a mark. And if you travel long enough, you start seeing them all. You ever hear a scream come from your trailer when you're hauling steel pipes? Stuff that don't got lungs, don't got mouths, sure as hell don't got nothing that can scream? I have. It was out on I-70 through Utah, close to the San Rafael Swell. That stretch gets quiet, too quiet. No lights, no houses, just rock walls rising up like jagged teeth on either side, and a sky so big you feel like you're drowning in stars. I was moving late, just me and the road humming under the wheels when the first thump hit. I thought maybe a strap had come loose, maybe something shifted in the trailer, but then came the scream. High, human, full of pain. Echoed right through the steel wall behind me. I damn near swerved off the road. Pulled over fast, hazard lights on, heart slamming against my ribs. Climbed out, flashlight in hand. Climbed, up and opened the trailer doors. Nothing. Pipes were all strapped down tight, exactly how they were when I left the depot. No sign of anything that could make that sound. I even climbed in, walked through them, checked every corner. Not a soul, not a critter, nothing. But the moment I jumped back down to the ground, the scream came again. From inside. Like it was waiting for me to leave. I didn't go back in. Just shut those doors and locked them. And the rest of the night, driving through that empty rock corridor, I heard that scream again and again. Like whatever it was inside didn't want to be there. Or maybe it wanted out. When I dropped the load the next day, I asked the guys at the yard if they ever heard weird stuff coming from shipments like that. One guy, older fella with a faded army tattoo on his neck, just looked at me for a long minute and said, "You took the mountain road, didn't you?" I nodded. "Shouldn't have done that," he muttered. "Sometimes that place echoes back more than sound." Then there's the old rest stop out in Nevada. Just off Route 50, they call it the loneliest road in America. You'd believe it too, driving that thing after midnight. No towns, no lights, just an occasional battered gas pump with a single flickering bulb hanging overhead. This stop, though, this place was wrong. No name on the sign. Just rest area in faded red letters that looked hand-painted. I pulled in because I'd been running on fumes and needed to catch an hour of shut-eye. When I parked, the place was dead silent. Not quiet. Silent. No wind, no bugs, no creaks from the truck's engine cooling. Just an unnatural stillness like the world was holding its breath. I went into the restroom and it looked clean enough. Too clean. White tile floors, no graffiti, lights buzzing with that sickly green tint. I stepped into a stall and locked the door, and that's when I noticed the writing on the inside of the stall door. Not scratched or drawn, but carved. Deep. With something sharp. It said, "Don't look at the mirror." Well, naturally that's exactly what I did when I came out. The mirror above the sink was fogged over like someone had just taken a hot shower in there even though it was cold as a meat locker. I wiped it with my sleeve and looked up, and there I was. Except I wasn't. My reflection was grinning. I wasn't. Its eyes were wide, like it was excited. Mine weren't. And its hands were moving on their own, lifting slow toward the glass like it wanted to come through. I stumbled back, slammed into the paper towel dispenser, didn't even bother drying my hands. I just ran, got in the truck and peeled out, tires kicking up gravel. When I looked in my rearview mirror, the lights in that restroom blinked out one by one, and the last thing I saw before I got over the ridge was a shadow in the doorway, tall and still. Watching? I've seen men disappearing into fog where no fog should be. I've driven under skies that turned black in an instant and stayed that way for hours, even though the forecast was clear. I've passed gas stations that weren't there the next day, even though I swore I fueled up there and talked to the attendant, some old lady with eyes like polished onyx who never blinked once. One time in Texas, I stopped to help a guy whose rig had jackknifed off the side of the road. He looked fine, just shaking a bit. Said his brakes gave out. I offered to radio in some help, but he said, "Don't bother, already did." Then he just walked into the desert. No flashlight, no bag, no nothing. Just strolled into the night like he was answering a call I couldn't hear. I waited, 10 minutes, then 20. Nobody came. I finally flagged down a trooper and told him the whole thing. When we went back to the site, the rig was gone. No tracks, no skid marks, not even divots in the dirt where the tires should have been. Just empty highway and wind. It ain't just one state. It ain't just one road. The whole country's riddled with holes, tears in the fabric where the dark leaks through. And truckers? We're the needles that thread through all of it. We see the seams. We feel where reality's wearing thin. And sometimes, when the night's real quiet and the engine hums just right, you realize you ain't alone in that cab. Even when you know damn well no one else climbed in, you just keep driving. Keep your eyes forward. Don't look too long. In the mirrors. And whatever you do, don't stop at the places that shouldn't be there. There was one stretch out in New Mexico, State Road 152 I think it was, where I swear the road was alive. I don't mean like it had vines growing or some kind of wild desert bloom overtaking the asphalt. I mean the damn road moved. I picked up a load late out of Silver City, heading east, just trying to make up time. The sun had dropped behind the hills, and I was driving through pitch black with just my headlights cutting a path. At first, I thought maybe I was just tired. The road seemed to bend when it shouldn't, like I'd crest a hill and suddenly be facing a different direction than I remembered. But then my GPS started freaking. I don't trust those things all the time, but this one started doing loops on the screen, said I'd gone in a circle. That's when I noticed I passed the same road sign 3 times. Rattlesnake Summit, elevation 7,080. Same bullet hole in the metal. Same bent corner like it had been hit by something big. I slowed down, pulled over, stepped out with my flashlight. That was the mistake. The road, it was breathing. I ain't kidding. I could feel it under my boots. This slow, rhythmic rise and fall, like a lung expanding. Asphalt ain't supposed to do that. I bent down, put my hand flat against it, and it pulsed. A warm thump like a heartbeat. That's when I heard whispering. Not from around me, from beneath me, like voices were buried under the pavement. Speaking in tongues I didn't recognize, but the meaning still hit me like a punch to the gut. They were calling me down, inviting me, tempting me with something deeper than fear. Curiosity. I bolted. Got back in the cab, floored it. For what felt like an hour, I just kept driving. Headlights flashing over a road that never seemed to end. Finally, just as the sun was threatening to rise, I found a cutoff to an old gravel lot and slammed the brakes. Looked back. No sign of that hill. No road sign. No nothing. And my GPS? It was dead. Wouldn't even turn back on till I made it to the next town, and then there's Mississippi. That state's got a special kind of haunting. Not loud, not flashy. Just slow and sticky and patient, like a spider in the corner of your room that don't move, but you know it's watching. I was on US 61 just south of Vicksburg when I saw a kid walking on the shoulder. Middle of the night, maybe 3 a.m. He had on old clothes, like real old. Newsboy cap, suspenders, little button-up shirt too small for him. Barefoot, that part. Stuck with me. No shoes, just walking casual like it didn't hurt. I slowed down, rolled the window, asked if he needed help. He didn't even look at me. Just pointed into the woods. Not frantic, not scared. Just pointed. I looked where He was pointing, and at first I didn't see nothing. But then my high beams caught a shape in the trees. Tall, thin, pale, like a coat rack with skin. No face. Just a long slit where a mouth might be. And it grinned. I threw it into reverse without even thinking. Tires screaming, backed up. Good 100 yards before slamming it into drive and taking off. Didn't see the kid again, didn't see the thing either. But for the next 2 days, no matter where I stopped, there were muddy barefoot prints around my rig every morning. Never leading up to it, just around it. Like someone, or something, had been circling all night. Another time, in Oregon, I picked up a late-night haul heading up I-5. Got detoured off onto a logging road because of some wreck. GPS said it was a shortcut. I should have known better. Road was barely wide enough for the trailer, and thick pine forest swallowed up everything outside the beams. After an hour of tense driving, I saw lights up ahead. Lanterns, maybe? I slowed down and saw a bunch of people standing in a circle in the middle of the dirt path, all wearing black robes, faces covered in masks made of bark and moss. I honked. They didn't move, just slowly turned their heads toward me in unison. I didn't wait for an invitation. I threw it into reverse again, but when I turned to look behind, there was another circle. Same people, same robes, like they'd been duplicated. No footprints, no sound, just there. I blacked out. I don't remember making it out. Just woke, up in a truck stop 200 miles away with my rig parked perfect and a pine cone sitting on my dashboard. People ask me why I keep doing this job. Why not settle down, find a safer gig? Truth is, out here on the road, I feel like I've got a purpose. Like I'm not just moving freight, I'm carrying stories. Witnessing the thin places, the cracks in the world where normal rules don't apply. Maybe the road needs people like me. Folks who've seen what's hiding in the shadows and still keep going. Not to beat it, not to escape it, just to understand. And if you ever hear someone knocking on your sleeper door in the middle of the night, don't open it. Not unless you're sure you parked somewhere normal. And never if the knock comes in threes and then nothing, that means it followed you. That wasn't the last time I saw her. Weeks later, on another run through the Appalachians just past midnight, I spotted that same figure again. This time she was standing near a bend in the road, just beyond the guardrail, her eyes fixed on the horizon as if waiting for something, or someone. I slowed down, not sure if I wanted to get closer or just get the hell out of there. As I passed, a cold gust of wind slammed against my rig, rattling the doors and freezing the air inside the cab. The radio static flared up, crackling with a high-pitched screech that made my teeth hurt. For a split second, I thought I heard her voice whispering, "Oh, come back." I didn't. I never did. And after that, I stopped taking those mountain runs altogether. But the road had other plans for me. One time, deep in the heart of Texas, I was hauling livestock feed again, this time crossing some backcountry route near the border. The sun was setting fast, and the sky was a canvas of fiery oranges and purples. I was almost done with my shift, looking forward to a hot meal and a bed at the next truck stop when the weirdness started. I saw a figure walking along the highway, tall, dressed in dusty clothes that looked decades out of date. I honked to get his attention, but he didn't look up, just kept walking, steady and slow, like he belonged there. I stopped to ask if he needed help, but the man vanished the moment I stepped out of the cab. No footprints, no rustling bushes, nothing. The only thing left was a strange chill in the air, like the kind you feel just before a storm rolls in. I got back in and locked the doors, my heart pounding. Later I asked around the locals. They told me about the Wanderer, a ghostly figure said to haunt the Texas plains, a man who lost his life in a trucking accident long ago, doomed to roam the highways forever looking for a ride home. People say if you see him, you're either cursed or chosen. I'm not sure which one I am, but I know this much. The road never forgets, and it's got a long memory for people like me. Sometimes I wonder if the ghosts and spirits are just warnings, reminders, that these roads aren't just pavement and signs, but places where lives have been lost and stories left unfinished. Maybe that's why they haunt us, the truckers, because we're always on the move, crossing through their territory like we don't belong. And maybe that's true. Maybe we don't. There was another time, way out in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. I was parked for the night at a rest stop, planning to catch a few hours of shut-eye before dawn. It was quiet, the kind of silence that makes your own heartbeat feel too loud. I was just drifting off when I heard knocking, not on the door, but on the trailer behind me. Slow, deliberate. 3 knocks, then silence. I grabbed my flashlight and checked outside. Nothing. No one. No sign of anyone around. Just the night swallowing everything whole. I chalked it up to my nerves and climbed back in. The knocking came again, this time inside the cab. The glove compartment rattled. The dashboard lights flickered. My radio burst into static before a faint voice came through. Don't stop. Then the radio died. I sat there frozen, clutching the wheel, wondering what the hell I was supposed to do. But the moment I turned the key to start the engine, the knocking stopped. The silence returned. I pulled out of the rest stop and didn't stop until I was hours away. Every trucker I know has a story like that. Things you can't explain, things you're too scared to talk about on the air. But out here, alone with the road stretching forever ahead, you start to understand. The highways are alive in a way most folks don't see. They breathe, they watch, they remember, and if you're lucky, they just let you pass by. But sometimes, the road demands more, like the night I found that old doll sitting on the dashboard. It wasn't mine, never was. I swear I didn't put it there. The thing was cracked and faded, with one glass eye missing and the other staring straight ahead like it knew secrets it wasn't allowed to share. I tried tossing it out the window. Once, but by the next rest stop it was back, sitting right where I left it. That doll was the start of the worst run I ever had. I was hauling refrigerated goods through a stretch of highway in Michigan that locals call the Forgotten Mile. Supposedly a spot where people disappear, where trucks break down for no reason, and no cell service means no help for hours. About halfway through, my radio started playing old country songs that weren't on any station. The temperature in the cab dropped even though the heater was on full blast. Shadows danced in the corner of my eyes just out of reach, and the doll's glass eye seemed to follow me. By the time I reached the end of that stretch, I was a wreck. My rig was covered in scratches and dents that weren't there before. The doll was shattered, glass eye rolling on the floor. I dumped it at a landfill and never looked back. But sometimes late at night, I swear I can still hear that music playing faintly in the background, calling me back to the Forgotten Mile. I guess what I'm trying to say is this: truckin' isn't just a job. It's a journey through the strange, the eerie, and sometimes the downright terrifying. And if you think you're safe behind that wheel, think again. The road's got eyes, it's got ears, and it's got stories. Stories that don't end when you park for the night. So the next time you see a rig rolling down the highway after dark, maybe give a little nod. Because the driver might be more than just a guy with a load to deliver. He might be someone who stared into the unknown and lived to tell the tale. And if you listen close enough, maybe he'll share a story that'll keep you awake for nights to come. Now, I've been through my fair share of weird nights, but there was one run that still gives me chills every time I think about it. It happened in the dead of winter, down in New Mexico. I was hauling electronics, nothing too exciting, and the weather was nasty. Freezing rain turning the highway into glass. I was just pushing through, trying to keep the rig steady, when I caught sight of something on the side of the road. A lone figure waving me down with desperation. I'm no stranger to helping folks in need, but something about this guy felt off. He was wearing an old-fashioned coat and hat, like he'd stepped out of a different era. His eyes, man, they were hollow like empty pits. Still, I pulled over, thinking maybe he was just cold and needed a ride. Before I could say a word, he leaned in and whispered, "You can't outrun it." That's when the truck shook violently, the headlights flickered, and the radio erupted in a loud screech. I slammed the brakes and threw the rig into park. The man was gone. Just vanished. No footprints in the snow, no tire marks, nothing. For miles after that, I couldn't shake the feeling someone was riding shotgun with me, breathing down my neck. I kept glancing in the mirrors, half expecting to see those hollow eyes staring back By the time I pulled into the next rest stop, I was shaking so bad I could barely get out of the truck. Other drivers noticed and asked what was wrong, but I just shook my head and said, "It's nothing." Didn't want to scare anyone. That night, I slept in the cab, with the heater on full blast, clutching the steering wheel like it was a lifeline. I didn't close my eyes until dawn broke. Stories like that keep me going, keep me watchful. Because the road isn't just asphalt and signs. It's a living, breathing thing filled with memories. Good, bad, and downright terrifying. It's taught me to keep my eyes open, to trust my gut, and to respect the shadows that follow me down those endless highways. And if you're ever out there driving those lonely roads at night, remember, you're never truly alone. Something's always watching, something's always waiting, so keep your wits about you. And maybe, just maybe, keep an ear out for the whispers on the wind. Because some stories aren't meant to be told. They're meant to be survived. There was this one time in West Virginia, running a night haul through those twisty mountain roads that feel like they were carved by some ancient hand just to trap you. I was hauling logs, heavy load, and the rain was coming down so thick I could barely see past the windshield. The radio was dead silent except for the rain's steady drumming. I remember passing this old bridge, all rusted and sagging, and that's when my headlights caught something standing just at the edge of the tree line. A woman drenched with long hair plastered to her face, just staring at me. No blinking, no moving, just watching. I slowed down, heart pounding, thinking maybe she was hurt, maybe needed help. But as I rolled up beside her, she vanished like smoke, like she was never there at all. I hit the brakes hard, looked around, but no footprints, no sign she'd ever been real. Just the wet road and the rain. Like a ghost had been playing tricks on me. That wasn't the worst part, though. As I drove off, I swear I heard her voice over the radio. Not through static or any station, but clear as day, singing a lullaby, a song my mama used to sing to me when I was a kid. It chilled me to the bone. I turned the radio off and didn't turn it back on for the rest of the trip. This job, it's full of moments like that. Moments where reality gets thin and the road whispers secrets it ain't ready to share with anyone but the drivers who dare to listen. I've learned to respect those moments, to not laugh them off as tiredness or tricks of the mind, because the highway remembers, and it tells its stories to those who drive long enough. One last thing. Next time you see a rig slowing down in the dead of night, watch close. Maybe wave if you want. But don't be surprised if you catch a glimpse of something just a little too strange to be real. That's the highway talking, and it's got plenty more stories to tell. There was this one stretch of highway in Oregon, long, straight, and flat, cutting through miles of dense pine forest. I was hauling frozen goods late at night, the kind of route that puts you in a trance, eyes half closed but hands steady on the wheel. About halfway through, my CB crackled to life out of nowhere. No channel, just static, and then a voice that sounded faint like it was coming from under the truck. It whispered, "Turn back." I laughed it off at first. Probably some prank by another driver. But then the temperature inside the cab dropped so fast I could see my breath. The heater sputtered and died. That's when the road started to change. The trees looked like they were bending toward me, the shadows thickening into shapes I couldn't quite make out. Then headlights appeared behind me, way too close. No matter how fast I went, I checked my mirrors, no rig, just darkness. Then the radio cracked again, this time clearer. You can't outrun what's behind you. Panic settled in my gut like ice. I pushed the pedal harder, heart pounding, sweat slick on my forehead. The air inside the cab felt thick and heavy, like breathing underwater. The engine sputtered, then coughed and died. Dead. Just like that, right there on the highway. No warning, no sputter, just silence. I tried the ignition again and again, but it wouldn't turn over. That's when the headlights appeared in front of me, blinding and impossibly close. I closed my eyes, bracing for impact, but there was nothing. When I opened them, the road was clear, the truck fired up, and the headlights were gone. I pulled over at the next rest stop, hands shaking so bad I could barely grab my coffee. The air was warm again, and the radio was silent. Normal static, no voices, no warnings. I still don't know what was out there on that highway that night. But I know one thing for sure. Sometimes, The road wants you to turn back, and if you don't listen, it'll make you stop whether you like it or not. And sometimes what's behind you is something you just can't leave behind. There was another time down in Texas, hauling cattle feed through the endless stretches of flatlands, where the sky meets the earth in one giant empty horizon. It was a hot summer night, the kind where the air sticks to your skin and even the crickets sound tired. I was nearly halfway through my run when my rig started acting up. Lights flickering, gauges bouncing like I'd hit a rough patch, but the road was smooth as glass. Then out of nowhere, the CB radio burst to life, crackling and full of static. But underneath the noise I heard a faint, distorted voice repeating, "Don't stop, don't stop." I tried to shake it off as interference, but the voice kept coming back, louder each time like it was trying to get through a thick fog. That's when I noticed the truck's temperature gauge climbing past normal, the engine sputtering and struggling like it was fighting to keep alive. Sweat ran down my neck as I looked in the side mirrors and saw something running alongside the rig. Fast, dark, and just barely visible in the heat haze. It wasn't human. It was too fast, too silent, too wrong. I floored the gas, pushing my rig as hard as it could go, heart hammering in my chest. The radio screamed with static, and that voice was now shouting, "Don't stop, don't stop." Over and over like a warning or a curse. I didn't stop. Not for fuel, not for rest, nothing. I just drove straight through the night, eyes locked on the road ahead. When dawn finally broke, I pulled into a truck stop near Amarillo, hands trembling as I shut the engine down. The truck was warm, too warm, and the radio was dead silent. I never saw that shadowy thing again, but sometimes when I'm alone, I swear I can still hear that voice whispering through the static, reminding me not to stop. Not ever. Out here on the road, you learn quick. There's things lurking in the night, watching, waiting for the moment you let your guard down. And once they get a glimpse of you, well, they don't forget. Neither do.